All right, all right. What's going on, party people? I know I gotta wait for y'all to slide on up in here and all that good stuff. All right, all right. So hopefully this week we won't have any issues with the technologies. All right, let me get my stuff together here. Pull you out. Pull up this other thing here. Oh man. Whoo-wee. Mm-mm-mm. I tell you. Always forget where this stuff is at in my. What's going on? Where y'all coming from? Where y'all coming from? Oh, here it is. Save. What's up? What's going on with you? What's going on with you? Yeah. Hello to you. Hello to you. Hello to you. Oh man. Oh, let's see here. Mm-mm-mm. Let's see here. Let me play a little something for y'all. You know, I always like to listen to some of my motivational people over here on Instagram and stuff. So let me pull up one of them. This is Mel Robbins. I don't know if that's Tony Robbins' wife or sister or what have you. So
thing about a rock bottom moment is that you know it's rock bottom because you hit something solid within yourself. And what you actually hit finally is the resolve that you need to change. And one of the things that I've learned is that people only get sober when being drunk is harder than facing the things you're running from. It is a fundamental part of human nature that pain is part of what's necessary to organize the friction inside yourself to push yourself to change. Because we are wired to move towards what's easy. We're wired to move towards what feels good. That's why we sit on the couch instead of going for a run. That's why we scroll on social media instead of working on a business plan. That's why we watch your podcast and my podcast instead of starting our own. It's easier. In order to change, you have to accept a fundamental truth. You are going to have to do something that's very difficult now in order for life to be easier later. And we're not wired that way. And so there is a certain amount of pain that is required inside of a human being in order for you to want to push yourself. The interesting thing about a rock bottom moment is that you know it's rock bottom because you hit something solid within yourself. And what you actually hit finally.
this is come on, people. This is what's going on in this notary business is that everybody wants this thing to be easy. And because it's not easy, they having all kind of hissy fits. They upset with this and upset with that. They're mad about this and mad about that. And it hurts the business more than anybody taking a low ball order. That hurts the business more because the what you're producing is trash. You're not producing good results. You can't notarize stuff. You're not showing up on time. You're not shipping out on time. You're not fixing your mistakes because you're trying to do stuff quick and easy. And then when things get difficult, you have all kind of fits. I was talking to my friend here, Tracy. She's been shadowing me at closings where I need a witness. And so she's learning a lot by being able to come with me and do the closings. And she's shadowing me, and she's gaining some valuable knowledge and everything. So whenever I have a closing or any kind of notary assignment that requires a witness, I give her a call, and she's there, and I greatly appreciate it. And I was sharing with her earlier this evening that the realization about this business hit me is that this is the most multi-talented multitask oriented business that I believe you could be in. Because when you're looking at 135 different clients that I worked with last year, that's potentially 135 different ways I got to do loan documents. They might be refinances, but it could be 135 different ways that they want those refinances done. And if you're not a person who can handle doing multitasking of things, it can stress you out big time. So for me, I like the multitasking. I can thrive in it. Does it get overwhelming sometimes? Yes, but I can still rock with it. But what I've learned is that when you have people who struggle with multitasking, or not that they can even struggle with it, they just like things linear. They don't want up and down. They don't want that. They don't want forward and backwards. They want everything. And that person will have a hard time in this business because you get a closing from four different companies and they want them four different ways. And that's a lot to keep track of in your mind. And for some people, that's just too much for them to handle. Somebody might want scan backs. Somebody might want scan backs and say you got to wait till we upload a label before you can ship it. Another may say no scan backs, but we'll upload the label in a little bit. Some say scan backs, the label's up there, but you can't ship until we say it's okay to ship. And for you, and then you got other appointments, that can be too much for some people. It can be way too much. So this is the most multitask oriented business that I've ever been in and a part of. So if you can't handle the multitasking that required in this business, you're going to struggle. If you want things where I go to one title company and I get all of my money from that one company because they got one type of documents, this, that, and the other, you can have that, but it's going to be hard. And see, this is where people start branching off into doing other things because it's like, it'll just be easier for me to do a teaching. It'll just be easier for me to be, to just talk about my life and the day in the life of Notary and all that. And I'll make a course and I steal somebody's course and make it look like it's mine. Because trying to work with multiple different companies and all their personalities and attitudes and all of that. Heck, you got men and women who can't handle their children. If they got 3 kids and all 3 kids are acting all this, that, and the other, it stresses them out. So how do you think somebody's going to handle dealing with 4 or 5 different companies? And you've never done that before. And that is what I believe that is one of the key things that's causing heartache and pain for a lot of notaries. Give me your thoughts on that. What do you think about that? If you agree with it, type a 1 in the chat. If you disagree, type a 2. Because I know not everything I say people agree with and stuff. So me, I agree with what I said. So tonight I want to talk and thank y'all for sharing, and commenting. Also in the description is the link if you want to book a one-on-one session with me, just $10 for 30 minutes. It could be Zoom, it could be on the phone, all that good stuff. So just if you want to talk to me, you got questions, this is what I'm working on doing this year on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays of each week, between, I believe it's 8 and 10 or 8 and 10:30. You can book time with me and I'll be more than happy to chop it up with you. I've already had a conversation with 2 people and looking to talk to more. So it's in the description, and you'll see it in there. It's the one-on-one session and they've been good. They've been really, 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 really good. All right. So I'm glad. Yeah. And look, if you can just listen to people and they're like, they don't like the ripping and running, the back and forth, and this company wants it this way and that company wants it that way. People may not admit they don't like the multitasking because it's multitasking because you have a task to do with Villa Title. You have a task to do with comfortable closing. You got a task to do with signature closers. And each one of them is different. And if you're not good at handling different variations of stuff, it can stress you out. But if you can learn to adapt and adjust to it, boom, I'm telling you, you're going to be off to the races. And you're going to be like, wow, I ain't realized I could be doing this great in this business. That's just what's been going on with me. So, tonight's topic, oh my goodness, this Senate bill from the state of Maryland, from the state of Maryland, talking, and I don't know if you've heard of this bill. If you've already heard of it, type a 3 in the chat, because I don't know if you've heard of it or not. I'm sure several hold on. Notary sending me something, said they need some help with stuff. I have to get with them. Um Good question. Hold on. Good question. Let me check. Oh, well, no, nah, I'm sorry, y'all. This is a notary needing some help real quick. Not, not if it's today you are notarizing. I'm sorry about this, y'all. Y'all know how I am. All right, I got to help out the notaries. Got to help them out. All right, so the Senate bill 700. Yeah, the Senate bill 700. This here is about, and this is from the Maryland Notaries in Action Group. Okay, so this is them making a statement on February the 4th, a couple of days ago, talking about how they feel that this is more of a burden than a benefit for Maryland notaries. And personally, I think the way they're approaching it is incorrect, because I've worked with disability people in disabilities, and as a website developer, that was one of my specialties that I had to learn way back in the 90s, is how to create websites for people with disabilities. And just to give you heads up, here's one of the things that, let me come back to y'all. So there's a thing called Section 508. Okay, Section 508 that the government has, and it's the Americans with Disability Act. Section 508. And one of the things that you have to do is make things accessible to those with disabilities. If you don't, you can be sued. Yeah, you can be sued if you fail to make reasonable accommodations to those people with disabilities. So I get, and as we go through this real quick, I understand the concern, but I think complaining about what difficulty it is for you, the notary, versus trying to come up with a solution to accommodate the client, I think that's the wrong approach. I think they instead of talking about notaries working for free, talking about free labor, when this is a volunteer position, okay, we're volunteering, and it's not the state that is paying us. And I talked about this. Y'all remember me talking about this. The state isn't paying us. Who's paying us? The client, that person we're meeting with. They are the ones who are paying us. So we volunteered to be a notary for our state. Our state is not asking us, who have volunteered to do this position, to accommodate the citizens of said state or visitors of that state if they need notary services, because this is something the government is providing for them, and at a quote unquote reasonable fee. I believe negotiations can be put in place to try to make this better, but to come out talk about the pain and the discomfort and all of that that's happening to us when you're dealing with somebody who's in a wheelchair, who's blind, who may have other things going on. You have to be careful about talking about how you're being inconvenienced when they're asking you to help out somebody who's inconvenienced. You got to be careful about that. And feel free to give me your comments in the chat room. Okay. So the bill goes on and says here, basically it says this bill was introduced by this particular senator and called Notary Acts Reasonable Accommodations. While the bill claims to promote accessibility by requiring notaries to accommodate individuals with disabilities, its true impact is unreasonable. Unpaid mandate that places notaries at financial and legal risk. Maryland notaries already provide reasonable accommodations under existing laws, and this bill goes too far by requiring notaries to read entire documents aloud, a time-consuming task that notaries cannot charge for under Maryland regulations set by the Office of the Secretary of State. So they want y'all to read to the customer because that customer may have vision problems, things of that nature. They may not necessarily be blind, but they may have a hard time seeing. They might be what is deemed legally blind. Okay. So it says what the Senate Bill 700 proposes. The bill requires a notary public to provide reasonable accommodation to individuals with physical disabilities that limit their ability to sign a record without assistance, to read the entire document aloud before notarizing the signature of a blind individual. So that means the blind individual is probably verbally designating somebody else to sign for them, but before they sign it, they want us to read it to them. Now I know they say, well, why can't the person who they designated read it? I get that. While accessibility is important, the bill does not take into account the existing legal framework, financial impact, and liability imposed on notaries. So they say, they're saying the problem, and they got a lot of problems with the bill. Okay. But follow me, y'all. Okay. Please stick with me. Stick with me. And I'm going to show y'all where we got ourselves into this mess. Okay. We got ourselves into this mess. So the problem is this could take a significant amount of time, especially reading long documents like a loan packet, legal contracts, estate planning forms. Maryland notaries are already restricted from charging fees beyond regulatory limits set by the Secretary of State, and the Maryland notaries Secretary of State verbally confirmed that notaries cannot charge additional fees for extended time on a notarization. Long notarizations, loss of income equals loss of income. The more time a notary spends reading, the fewer appointments they can take. The Maryland notaries already provide services at low fixed fees for in-person notarial acts. This bill forces them into unpaid labor. Now, again, this is a volunteer thing that we're doing. And in all honesty, and this is just my opinion, no one has ever said that being a notary for any state is supposed to be a business. I mean, you think about it. The state never communicated that, hey, we want you to. Oh, okay. The state never said that, hey, I want you to be a notary so you can make six figures. We're not being employed by the state. We're volunteering to do this for the state. So it's not the state's job to be concerned about how many appointments we do in a day and how much money we can make. That's not the state's primary mission. They're not thinking about that. Okay. They're not thinking about that. They're not like, okay, we got to make sure that every notary in Maryland or whoever state can do at least 5 appointments a day at $150 a pop. That's not their concern. Their concern is how many we need a notary to accommodate this person to make sure that they understanding the document that is being signed, so they're not being taken advantage of. Because that's our job to do what? Prevent fraud. Now, is it asking us to understand and interpret? Hopefully not. No. But I get the concern from a notary standpoint, and I understand the concern from the leadership standpoint. Our leadership as notaries, we're under their leadership to make some kind of reasonable accommodations for citizens. So then, if you're saying you don't want to do this, then how do we accomplish the goal of ensuring that a person who has disabilities is able to understand and comprehend a document? What can happen? What can be done in place? Okay, prior to. So goes on to says it creates a legal liability. Okay, liability, and then now this is where we got ourselves in trouble. This you gonna follow me now? This is where we got ourselves in trouble. We saying it creates a legal liability risk for notaries. Notaries are not attorneys. Notaries are not responsible for ensuring a signer understands a document, only that they are willing to execute it. If a signer misunderstands something read aloud, they could later claim the notary influenced their decision. This blurs the line between notarization and legal interpretation, exposing notaries to potential lawsuits. The risk of unauthorized practice of law. The legal documents often contain complex terminology and technical provisions that requires legal expertise. All of this is correct, and I agree with every single bit of it. If a notary reads a document aloud, they could be accused of interpreting or explaining its content, a violation of UPL laws in Maryland. Why this matters? Notaries are not responsible for explaining legal documents. I think y'all know where I'm going, especially you, Jeff. You know where I'm going with this. This bill places notaries in legally risky position where they could be accused of overstepping their role. Y'all know where I'm going with this. If you know where I'm going with this, put a 7 in the chat. If you don't, put an 8. Okay. Senate bill contradicts Maryland state government article because it imposes additional requirements on notaries that current law does not mandate. So they're asking us to do something that the law says we shouldn't be doing. This is asking us to do something that the law is telling us not to do. So Maryland law says we're not supposed to do this, but you want us to do this. Well, we got ourselves in trouble because guess what? Many notaries are doing it when you have taken those TMC's courses that say what? We need to give a brief overview. We need to point out, we need to explain, we need to make sure that they know where the interest rate is and where this is and that is. All of that falls under this here. I've been telling y'all, shut your mouth and stick to your notary laws. But no, you done got out here on the YouTube, sound like an old man, I'm calling it the YouTube. You done got out here on the YouTube and on the Clubhouse and on the Instagram, and you did what? Bragging about how you can explain documents, bragging about how you point to this and point to that and do the little Vanna White, flipping the little squares over so they can read all of the thing. Okay, that is not what we're supposed to do. So now all of a sudden notaries are saying no. And it's a lot of Maryland notaries and a lot of trainers up there in Maryland that do what? Talk about explaining the documents. And there are a lot of signing company owners in Maryland who put in their agreement, their contract to notaries saying you will explain documents. You will read the document. You will not just point and have them, you won't just tell them, point and have them sign. You got to say something about the documents. So if y'all been doing that all this time, why are you having a problem now? All of a sudden, now you're concerned about the legality of it. All of a sudden, you're worried about how much you're getting paid. So the question then becomes, if you're going to push back and say, hey, y'all not going to compensate us for this, then I ain't doing it. So show me proof that you're really, truly being compensated when you do it for these signing companies, irregardless of the dollar amount. If you do it for $200, show me where they're actually paying you to do that. Show me where they're saying, part of what we're paying you is going to be $150 to do the closing, and then $50 you're going to get for you explaining the documents. Show me proof, because see, if you take this to court and you try to argue that, oh well, no, we can't do that, but y'all got too much proof out there that says you do. Y'all done ran your mouth too much for too long saying we explain documents. Oh, I got my course. Hey, my course will teach you everything you need to know on how to explain the document, how to walk the customer through the document. That's all this bill is saying. Hey, you've already been doing it. Might as well keep it going. And we know you're not getting properly compensated for doing so, and you take pride in doing it, and you brag about doing it, and you done stole somebody's course and said it's your course, and you're teaching somebody else to do it. And that is the number one thing that people are being taught to do, is what? How to explain the documents and take a customer through them. So why are you having a problem now that they're saying, okay, we're going to put this in state law? I saw this. I was like, oh man, y'all done did it to yourself. So it goes on to say, it says, current law already provides a solution for physically disabled signers. Maryland law already allows individuals with physical disabilities to complete a notarization without requiring additional actions from a notary. If a person cannot physically sign, they can direct another person other than the notary to sign for them in their presence. The notary documents the arrangement by adding a statement such as signature affixed by ... And I have a will coming up. Oh, either power time, I forget which one, but I have one coming up that's going to be I have to do that for here in Virginia. This process ensures accessibility without placing extra duties on a notary. And I agree. And feel free to drop any comments in there, anything you're thinking about, any thoughts that you're thinking about as we go through this. And matter of fact, I forgot to put that in my description. Here's the link to that. So if you want to look at it while we're doing this here. So it says, why SB 700 is unnecessary. The current law does not require a notary to read, explain, or interpret documents. Instead, it focuses on allowing alternative signing methods. Current law, notaries are not required to ensure comprehension. I've been saying that since I was born. The current law does not require notaries to verify that the signer understands the document. If the signer has trouble reading, they can seek help from a third party. Why SB is a problem? Requiring a notary to read a document aloud could create the appearance that the signer fully understands what was read. If the signer misunderstands something, they could later claim that the notary misled them. 100% agree with you. That's why I don't do it with the loan closings. This is what I've been saying for however long. Notaries cannot charge extra fees for time spent. If the bill passes, notaries could be forced to spend 30 minutes or more reading the document without compensation. So again, is that the whole purpose of a notary in the state of Maryland? For you to do something and get compensated for it? Then it goes on here, it says, reading aloud takes time, and time is money. Forcing notaries to do this without pay is an unreasonable burden. And then down here it talks about the conclusion. Notaries are not attorneys. Notaries should not be forced into unpaid labor. Notaries should not be exposed to legal risk for reading legal documents aloud. But you're doing this on an everyday basis anyway with the loan closings. You're already summarizing, because that means what can anybody tell me? I know it's going to be hard. I'm going to ask you this question, but can anybody tell me what I've said in the past about summarization of something? What has to happen in order for you to summarize it? If you need to summarize a movie, what has to happen in order for you to summarize a movie? Can somebody put that in the chat? There's something simple that you got to do in order to summarize a movie. If you're going to summarize a book, if you're going to summarize a news story, what has to happen in order for you to properly summarize it? Please, somebody put it in the chat for me. I'm gonna wait. I want y'all to please put it in the chat. And I'm sitting here looking at this thing. We're not required to make sure they understand. And that's the biggest thing that's being taught. So what has to happen in order for you to summarize what somebody is saying? I mean, what somebody wants to know. You what has to happen? What if you're going to summarize a movie, what has to happen? What has to happen in order for you to summarize a movie, a book, or anything? Yeah, something has to happen. It says here, good evening, party people. Oh, what happened in Myrna? You have to see it, watch it. No, that is right. In order for you to summarize something, there you go. That's right. You would have to seen it or know it. Thank you. That's the thing. So that means what? Any notary who is summarizing legal documents currently right now, irregardless of the state, that means you took time out to read the document. So why you can't do it for the people with disabilities? Because if you're summarizing documents, that means you read them. Because again, you say, well, I'm just reading the script from the NNA. Okay, but that script from the NNA does not apply to every single document out there. I guarantee you that script does not apply to Washington, D.C. documents. If there's a Washington, D.C. notary or a notary who has done closings in Washington, D.C., you know them documents are different. They're different. If you're in any colonial minded state, California, not California is colonial, but you got California, you got other northern states, the way they do their documents is completely different. So you're trying to read the NNA's script on what this document is to give somebody a summary. It could be completely incorrect because of the source of where that document came from. So if you're already studying, taking people's training courses, done took 5 different TMC's courses in mentoring classes, and the thing that people tell me the most is that I will get out there, but I'm still trying to get things together so I can explain the documents. I really gotta know. And y'all know doggone well that is the number one issue that we got right now, is that people won't do this business because they don't feel comfortable, because they going out there because they don't think they know how to explain the documents or summarize it. Now, here's the bigger problem. Now, here's some of the problems that I see with this thing. We know categorically that there are some human beings on this earth, young, old, black, white, it doesn't matter what the race is, doesn't matter what the age, gender, how you identify. There are people out here who can't read, who don't know how to articulate. Just imagine somebody, and we know we got people that have difficulties reading. And just imagine somebody saying, current law 188208 already provides a solution for physically disabled signers under state law. Well, I don't know what that means. 18208 Maryland law already allows individuals with physical disabilities to complete a notariation without requiring additional actions from the notary. If a person cannot physically sign, they can direct another individual other than the notary. You got people who read like that. And I'm not trying to pick at anybody because I used to read like that. And I used to struggle mightily. So that's why I can do it, because I used to read that way. And then you have the person who reads so fast. Maryland law already allows notaries with physical disabilities to complete a notarization without requiring additional actions from the notary. If a person cannot physically sign, they can direct another individual other than the notary to sign for them in the notary's presence. The notary documents the arrangement by adding a statement such as signature fixed by name of other individual at the direction of individual, name of individual directing the other individual to sign. This process ensures accessibility without placing extra duties on the notary. You have people that's going to read very, very slow or fast. And me, I tend to have a problem with being very, very monotone when I read to other people. And it doesn't come out right. And the emphasis of certain things don't get communicated. So you have that as a problem if it was me. We have people who have not grasped the English language. And I tell you now, I struggle with certain words. I skipped my Hooked on Phonics class. I skipped it. And there are days where even now at 57, I'm paying the price for skipping Hooked on Phonics. And I wish I had it together, but I did not. So these are things that we are dealing with. And I don't think that you should just tell notaries to do that. Now, to me, here's a solution. One, I think this group and any other Maryland notary needs to sit down and think about how to communicate the unfairness and the burden that will be placed on the person who is with the disability, how this could be unduly and unfair to them, produce an unduly burden on them. Forget talking about the money part. Talk about how it would hurt and it could mess them up. Because if you have somebody who can't read, if you have somebody who struggle with reading and comprehending as they read, it could cause a problem for them. And you have to show how this will be a burden, not to the notary, but to them, to the person who's supposed to be getting read to. You should talk about how here's some plans on how we can get this document read to them prior to. See, I worked with that doing Section 508, fixing up websites and making sure that information that's on the website can be read by the screen reader and all of that, the Braille and everything. There's ways of doing that. You can have, that's what the closed captioning is for, the videos with the closed captioning, all of that can be done. But to me, the originator, the creator of the document should be the one taking on the responsibility of ensuring that the person who they want to sign it knows what they're signing and has communicated that information to them. How can you have somebody to even go through the process of doing a estate planning and you haven't communicated with them and they don't know what they're signing? By the time they get to us, they should know what they're signing and why they're signing it. If they don't, that's a problem. You see what I'm saying? When I started my notary business, I never thought to have to explain anything. That's not my job. I sometimes tell people that if I have to explain something, you have to pay more. I don't blame you. Because because you're asking me to take on a liability that I shouldn't have. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't get paid. Oh, no. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is we put ourselves in this position by going around bragging about how we explain documents and telling people that you can't be a good notary unless you're able to explain the document. If you can't go over this, if you can't summarize it, if you can't guide them through and take on the role of the escrow officer and the title officer and this, that, and the other. This is what people have been told to do. Take on that responsibility and make sure the customer that's sitting in front of you knows what they're signing. That if you don't do this, heck, we're not hiring you. And I think that is incorrect, because now you're discriminating against me because I'm trying to follow my state guidelines, and you're telling me I need to do something that violates my state guidelines, which is what they're saying in here. So you want me to do something that my state says I shouldn't, but you're claiming that that makes me a great notary, a good notary, a decent notary, if I do this thing that you say I should do, and you cannot provide me any Maryland, Virginia, or whatever state statute that supports what you want me to do. And then if I choose not to do it, in other words, if I choose to follow my state statute that I can show you and articulate to you, you then say I'm not going to use you. So now you're prohibiting me from doing what I volunteered to do for my state, which is prevent fraud. So you're more concerned about me explaining the document than me actually preventing fraud. I'm here to prevent fraud, not to make sure that some random person that calls me up or that you assign me to meet actually knows what they're signing and why they're signing. That should have been taken care of beforehand, especially if they've been working on this thing, let's just say more than 2 weeks. So for 2 weeks, for at least 2 weeks, you've been working on doing this refinance. And now there's time to do it. You're like, well, I don't know why I'm doing it. Can you explain this to me? There's a problem there with the system. If people who are asking folk to sign documents don't take the time out to make sure they understand why they're signing them. And if you as the individual haven't taken time out to make sure you understand, that's a problem. And then you want the notary to come to the rescue. That's when I agree with y'all about the pay. So the reason why I can handle the pay, that because I stay in my lane. The moment you step outside of your lane, you want more money. Your lane is here. This is your lane. And you say, well, I'm going to widen my lane so that I can do more. And then the expectation is you get paid more, and you don't actually get paid more. So if you're saying there's free labor in explaining documents to the constituents of Maryland, then what are you doing now? Are you really getting compensated for your efforts that you're doing now? Are you really? I don't think you are. So if you're already not getting compensated, then why are you asking for compensation? Where's the proof that you are getting compensated for this? And to be honest, you can't provide the proof. You have no proof that any signing company out there is paying you to explain documents, that they're paying you to ensure ... Give me your thoughts on that, people. I know I've been running my mouth for the last 40-some minutes. Give me your thoughts on that. I'm eating me some rice and some chili tonight. That stuff is good. So give me your thoughts on that real quick. I wasn't going to try to hang up here too long, but I just wanted to talk about this because this is very, very interesting. And she says she stays in her lane. And see, here's the thing. What's wrong with doing that? Why does it make you less of a notary? See, you done bragged out there talking about, I'm more than a notary. I'm more than a notary. I mean, you want to call yourself a notary, then you just call yourself a notary, but I'm a signing agent. I'm more than a notary. My stamp is more than just a stamp. It is such a great thing. You know, my stamp is better than your stamp. My stamp will beat your stamp any day of the week. My stamp does more than what your stamp could ever do. Y'all done lost your daggone mind. And y'all wonder why people struggling out here. The reason why I love this business so much is because I actually understand what I'm supposed to do and I get rewarded for doing that. Give me proof that you're actually getting compensated for all of this stuff that your TMCs told y'all to do. And you know you can't. That's why, and I know people keep saying I sound arrogant when I say this, but to be honest with you, it's not being arrogant, it's just being truthful. All this smack I talk about, the business online, there has not been one of those TMCs that I know of that have ever come to me publicly or privately and said, Griff, here's where you're incorrect with what you're saying about us not explaining documents. Here's the proof that you can. You got somebody from the state of Maryland, and Maryland is a big state, is one of the ones who always get on me about, oh, you can explain the documents, and you have to, especially those notaries out there with that tip license, title insurance producer. And people in Maryland that got that title and producer license, they think they're gods. And they think just because you have that title insurance producer license, you're supposed to be able to explain the document. But they're sitting here saying clearly, right here, all of this here, notaries are not responsible for ensuring the signer understands the document. It's saying that it's unauthorized practice of law. We're not responsible for explaining documents. This is all the stuff that I've been sharing with y'all for the last 4 years. That a lot of people have sat there and, nah, you don't listen to Griff. He don't know what he's talking about. But yet nobody has ever come out and disproved me in what I'm saying. And now you have somebody in Maryland who has a Maryland notary group that is echoing the same thing that I've been saying. And just because you have a title insurance producer license does not mean that you're supposed to be still explaining documents. It's supposed, in my understanding, a title insurance producer license is for title insurance to explain the title insurance aspect. When did it become you explaining the whole loan packet to them? Now, in Virginia, it says if you've been trained and qualified to do that, then you can. But whose training out there is geared to training you to explain those documents? Because guess what? If you are doing closings, whether direct or signing company, you might be trained to do it in Maryland or for Maryland documents. But what if you get something from a different state? And many of you who are tri-commission and quadruple commission and heptuplet what do you call it? Hextuplet or eight-tuplet, whatever they call it, commission in all these different states, is the training that you're taking from that person in a state that is not even in any of the states that you're commissioned in, is that training that that person put together in their bathroom one night, suitable enough to help you to understand how to explain documents in 8 different states that you're commissioned in. Is that bathroom course to the level it needs to be? Can your state, does your state even approve of that bathroom course, backyard course, sitting at man and TT soccer game course, that stolen course? Is it? See, this is why y'all buying. I keep telling y'all, stop buying into this hype. Stick with your state laws. But no, that's too boring. I know. Doing the state laws is too boring. All of this here trying to show you the smartest person in the room. That you're correct. Folks have to read for themselves. I have a tip license and I'm not there to explain my explanation needs. If any explanation needs, let's make a phone call. That is correct. That is correct. Hold on, somebody's sending me something. Okay, yeah. Hold on, I had to reply back to my friend here. But that's the thing, you know what I'm saying? So I know I was hoping y'all would give me a little bit more feedback, but I'm surprised y'all haven't. Um, but as I look at this, you did it to yourselves, Maryland notaries. You've been running around, taking courses, producing courses, and bragging about you explain documents. So if you're already doing it, what's wrong? What's wrong with doing it now? And here, we're asking you to do this to help out somebody who has a disability. And you're saying, screw you. I ain't doing that. You, Come up with a way to accommodate them. Find a way to make this work rather than sit here and whine about what money you're not making. Because you make more money, you make more money, you make more money. How? Solving problems. That's how you make money, and you're not willing to do that in Maryland notaries. You won't make, you will not even try. This whole article that I'm saying, you identified the problem, but you're not coming up with a solution. And the problem isn't what you're not getting as a notary. The problem is, how do we help these people who need us? They need us, whether you do it or not. They still need somebody. Come up with an idea, say, okay, I'm gonna train notaries how to do this, and figure out a way to make this here work. I may not do it, but I'll train all the other 50,000 notaries here, and I'll train them how to do it. And then you can pay me to know. I'm trying to show you how to make some money. You can do that. How to make this work. Give the daggone senator a call. What is his name? Senator Justin Reddy. Give the man a call and say, hey, let's sit down and come up with a way to do this, and stop talking about, don't even mention money for notaries. Don't talk about how much of a burden it is, because this gentleman more than likely is doing this because his constituents, the people who voted him into office and that will keep him in office, have said, we got this problem here, Senator. We need this fix. We need this fix. Can you help get this fixed? What's something we can do? Now, whether or not he reached out to notaries, I don't know. But here's an opportunity for notaries to reach out to him. So rather than doing blog posts complaining and fussing about the burden that it's doing on your pockets, hey, Senator Reddy, let's have a conversation. Matter of fact, why don't you come out and do a couple of these closings so you can see what burden it will be on the person. Do the undercover boss thing and come out here and do some signing. But no, you don't want to do that. You're like, I'll do it if you pay me. This is why we're failing at this, people, because you got this little box that you stuck in called, I want to get paid all the money. Pay me my money. That's all I hear from you, a lot of notaries. And you're missing out. You're missing out on a grand opportunity to help step the notary business up in your state, Maryland notaries. I'm telling you what to do. You give that gentleman a call. Even, I don't care how scared, somebody, y'all need to give him a call on Monday and talk to him and say, hey, I heard about this. I think there's some issues that exist, that it might not make things better for the person with disabilities, but it can make things worse. Can you give me the backstory of how this came about? And I think if you understood the backstory, which I don't know, but if you find out what the backstory is, what led to this, you might have a lot more compassion, not a little more, a lot more compassion for your constituent or for your fellow residents in the state of Maryland who are suffering, and just need a little more love, just need some love, TLC, tender loving care. But right now, the way this article reads, it's all about y'all. Bump that, screw you. No. If you're a Maryland trainer, y'all need to be finding a way to make this work. If you are a Maryland trainer, you need to find a way to make this work. You need to go. And I got you say you're glad you're in an attorney state. Yeah, because the attorneys handle that. But for those who are not, they need to just take it, sit down and have a conversation, sir. So tell me what is the ultimate goal and how do you think this? Have you seen a closing? Have you seen any kind of notary appointment where this would take place? Do you have a visual? How about this? Do you have somebody here who is disabled? And how about I do this in front of you so you can get a feel for how this is, and maybe we can probably do some brainstorming and figure out a better approach to make this so it's not burdensome on them to just sit there and hear us talking. And you know what I'm saying? Something. But you're saying, nah, screw that. Pay me and I'll do it. I'm gonna be bored, but pay me. I don't get it. I don't get it. This is also a way to get people out of the business to continue to have mishaps that do not want to correct the mishap. That is true. That is true. So to me, that means, oh, we got people who don't know how to read. No problem. You know what I'm gonna do? We're gonna have a reading comprehension test that's going to be assigned to the notary um, application. And if you can't pass this reading comprehension, in other words, if you can't read at least on a 12th grade level, I don't think you need to be a notary. And then what about documents that got graphs in it? How do you go about explaining graphs? That's another thing. Spreadsheet charts showing dollar amounts over the next 5 years. Somebody invests something because there's things that might be in estate planning. Say, yeah, in your estate planning, you're gonna put money in this here ETF or whatever, and it's like, how do I skip over the graph? How do I read and interpret this graph correctly? Those are things that you need to be thinking about that they may not have, or they may have and they have a plan for it. Then by you coming in there trying to partner with them, you can find out what that plan is, and that can put you ahead of the game. Rather than whining and complaining about how uncomfortable you are. We're the servants. We're here to serve them. And if you got a problem with serving, you most definitely need to turn in your notary stamp. But this position, this notary position, is about serving people. And all I see in there is we see a problem, but we ain't serving you. I hear what you're saying, but we ain't serving you. I know there's some people that need us, but we ain't serving you. That becomes the problem. Your unwillingness to serve people of your great state. That's the problem I see here. So, any questions, any comments about anything? I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear from you. And it don't even have to be about this. It could be about anything. And no, I didn't get a chance to shave. Because that daggone 200 and, what was it, 220 some pages of that commercial loan that I did tonight. It took us like an hour and 15 minutes or so to do. So really, really nice couple that we did it with, but it took a while. And then I got a closing tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. and stuff. I got three closings and a will to do. So I got a pretty busy day tomorrow, starting early, 7 a.m., getting up and at them. So any questions, any concerns, any thoughts about this or anything else concerning the notary business? That is a great question. And I'm thank you for mentioning that. It can. Let me see if I can find something. Section 508 lawsuits. All right. There are companies out there. So like this here, this is about lawsuits of Section 508. There are companies that are out here that get sued for not having their site compliant or making reasonable accommodations for people with disabilities. So, like this here, it talks about Charles Schwab was targeted in 2010 when a visually impaired customer made claims concerning accessibility barriers on Schwab.com website. No lawsuit was filed, but a formal process known as structured negotiation was used. As a result, Schwab entered an agreement with the claimant to make improvements in 2012 to make it easier for people with visual impairments to use their sites in accordance with this here. And I use this here WGA2 standard a lot. I don't know why it was. Oh well, a lot. To make sure that the websites that I've worked on are compliant. This year, more recently, H&R Block was sued by the National Foundation of the Blind in 2013. A lawsuit was filed against the company claiming they violated Title III of the ADA, Americans with Disability Act. And it says, basically, goes down here, says, H&R Block was also ordered to pay a total of $45,000, $22,000 each to the defendants and $55,000 to the U.S. Department of Justice. So here's what happens when you have a violation of the Americans with Disability Act. That government agency can get sued. So it would not surprise me if the backstory of this is that somebody who has a disability, the notary that was there, unbeknownst to the notary, but did not try to make some type of reasonable accommodations for that person. Now, was a notary within the guidelines of state law? Yes. But that means state law, you need to figure out how to get this fixed, or we're going to sue you behind. So for every instance that a notary is unable to make reasonable accommodations for that person who has a disability that is recognized by the American with Disability Act, we're suing your butt. That's what that means. And I'm telling you on personal experience, because that is one of the things that I have a background in, is making websites accessible to people with screen readers or braille readers, where they take the whole website, where the pictures and everything has to be done in such a way that if their screen reader hits it, it can read it out loud to them. And it's a screen reader called JAWS, JAWS. It's called JAWS. And that screen, and it reads the whole site, and it tells you exactly what's on there. And the pictures have to be labeled a certain way. Everything has to be labeled so that the screen reader can read picture of Julius Caesar's 1823 or whatever. I'm just making up a year. That's what it's supposed to be. And that's what I did, started in the 90s. I went to a meeting and I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. And I've done it for the long PDFs, all kinds of stuff. Like right here, here's a checklist of stuff, tags and all of that. And I know this might be a little bit over. Data tables, things of that nature has to be done a certain way. This here is the biggest one, color contrast. You have to make sure that the color is contrasted the right way. So that, because there are people who have blue, green, red, a disability with blue, green, and red, where they have a hard time reading red text, blue text, and green text. And you cannot, and if you do not have the proper color combination, it can make it hard for that person to read. In other words, if they can't read red and you got a thing up there, you know, click the red arrow, and to them the arrow looks gray. That's how deep this goes. It goes that deep. Click the green button, and the green button looks a different color to them. Their eyes can't process green. That's how deep this goes, people. So rather than whine and complain about what about what you're not getting, you need to find out the backstory and try to come up with some kind of solution. What can we do to make this thing better? How can the notary work with the company? Now, if you're talking about a company hiring you, then that's where you start negotiating some decent pay. But before you get to that pay part, you got to come up with a solution. And what I always say that I learned, people pay you for the problems you solve, not the ones you create. And that whole daggone article was nothing but a problem that is being created by notaries saying, I will not do this. It is 100% in that realm. That's where it's at. This is ADA compliance. That's why I'm passionate about this, because I've been doing this since the 90s. That is my bread and butter, because very few very few web developers understand how to make a website compliant in accordance with that. Let me pull up something. I know. Oh, okay. All right, let me try something here real quick, y'all. I'm just gonna try something real quick to try to help y'all to see what I'm talking about. All right. Hold on. Hold on 1 second for me. I'm trying to do something for y'all. All right. I don't know where it's at. Hold on 1 sec. All right, I'll figure it out later. But yeah, you're right. So this says I did have a signer who was legally blind, and he had someone with him to explain what he was signing to make sure. Yeah. And that's the thing. You just got to have a ton of patience when doing this. But that is really it. I don't know how to turn it on. That's what the problem is. Uh oh well. I was going to show y'all what it looks like when you do the thing, but I don't know how to turn it on. That's the problem. This is a new one, and I do not know how to turn it on. So my apologies for that. Maybe I'll do another video showing people how to turn it on. How to use our tool. Yeah. Okay. Hold on 1 second, y'all. Please hold on. Give me a second. Give me a second. Give me a second. All right. All right. So there it is. All right. Let me see. Hold on. All right. Oh, there it is. All right. So let me show y'all real quick. All right. So this is one of the things. So I'm using an NNA site. So what this does is it runs a test and it tells you everything that you need to know about whether or not this here site is in compliant. And it has a lot of things here. So like right here it says not insufficient normal text contrast. What that means is that there's the contrast between the words is not good enough in order for somebody with a disability, a low vision disability, to see it. Zooming has been disabled. You see what I'm saying? Things of that nature. So this WCAG, all of this here, and I know I'm getting into the weeds, y'all. This is my techie side, okay? So please bear with me. But I'm just trying to show y'all different things. So there's stuff out here that actually goes through and it analyzes each and every page and says whether or not. So it has like 8, 9, 10, 14 things that are being done correctly, you know, and all of that. The proper line breaks and all of that, title links and all of that kind of stuff. So all of this is what helps a person to be able to view a website and to understand, to be able to receive and comprehend and digest the content that is on that website. All they're asking is for the notaries to help make accessible this, make things accessible to the person. I think there's a better way of doing it than reading the document. And this is where notaries can communicate with their leadership, because that's basically your boss, the government, and say, hey, let's find a way to make this bad boy work. That's all that really needs to be done. Instead of fussing and complaining and saying, you're making it rough for me, but you got somebody here who's blind or got low vision or colorblind and they need help. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And they need help. So find a solution to the problem instead of creating more problems. Stop whining about what money you're not getting paid and come up with a solution to help the people in your state and those who may want to move to your state. Somebody wants to buy a house and you're like, well, you're blind. You're discriminating. That's essentially what it boils down to. And then I'm just going straight with you. And if you're a black person and if you're a woman and you're talking this smack, you better think twice, because now you want somebody to be on your side if you're being discriminated against because you're black or you're a woman, you're Latino, your particular category sexually that you identify as, and then they say, okay, well, that's good. Okay, we respect that. Now we need you to do. Oh no, I ain't doing that. I ain't doing that. Now you're discriminating. So we already got notaries who discriminate against seniors because they don't want to do reverse mortgages. Now you're discriminating against people with disabilities. Y'all don't see that that's a problem? So who looks better in this? The person who can come out and come up with a solution. Who do you think they're going to be more willing to work with and put money in their pockets? The person who comes up with a solution. But to write a whole daggone blog post and don't even provide a solution and then say we're going to have a petition to go against it rather than come up and find a solution. And I please tag all your Maryland notaries. Let them know And if they want to get mad at me, fine, get mad at me and talk all the smack you want about me if you want. But I'm telling you what I know, not what I seen, not what I heard. I'm telling you what I know. And I already told y'all all that explaining the document stuff. But I also believe that this would probably come into play or would have come into play irregardless because it is a need. That's why I have in my notary profile that I have no problem working with people with disabilities. I say it in my profile. Yeah, I'm way ahead of the game, y'all. I say it in my profile. I have no problem working with people with disabilities or seniors. Why you think I be getting the business? Because they're like, oh, Griff work with seniors. Okay, cool. Griff work with elderly. No problem. I don't have a problem going in a nursing home. I ain't going in a nursing home. Where you won't go, I go. How you get all those orders? Who you know? I know you don't want to do it, so that's why I do it. Oh, you can say what you want about me. Say what you want. But I know what I'm doing. I've learned some things in these years on this earth. And I'm trying to share y'all. I'm trying to hip y'all the game. And you're pushing back because you're worrying about what's going into your pocket. Help somebody else. Make sure their life is good. Your life will be good also. Y'all have a good one. I'm out. And I'll catch y'all on the flip side. Enjoy the Super Bowl this weekend and have at it and hope your team win, which means your team is a team that wears green, not red. Talk to y'all later. Peace.